intervening, caring one has been adduced, I think you're really obliged to say not that you haven't made up your mind on it, but that you don't believe it, which would be my view.
Very briefly, I do think there are a lot of seekers, and they would fall in the agnostic category in the sense of, I don't know yet, I'm on the voyage, I want to search. I think the point that Pascal made that I was going to get at to earlier was, he said the problem with the agnostic position is at some point it runs out of gas, and that some point is the fact of death. Ultimately, at death, all abstentions are counted as no votes. So the agnostic who in a sense says, I'm not going to take a position, but I'm going to live as if God did not exist, is in some senses a de facto atheist. It's a de facto atheist who's not, in a sense, admitting it. And in this sense, I think I would agree with Christopher Hitchens, this is a rather alarming moment in the debate, a point of agreement. But the point, in some senses, agnosticism, if taken as an enduring philosophical position, it's a little bit of a dodge. On some issues, it's like voting. I won't vote, and I'll pretend like I have not favored either side. Not true. If you don't vote, your no vote does affect the outcome. In that, had you voted, it would have tilted the balance this way or that. So a no vote does count. It just counts in a different way.
Good.
Okay. Next question.
Well, first of all, thank you both for coming.
Oh, please.
You're both very great. And Mr. Hitchens, I respect you a lot, so the question is for you. One of the main complaints against atheism from some modern apologists and some people is that atheism is hopeless. As an atheist, where can you gain hope? Not freedom, but hope. And how can you grant that to other atheists and potential atheists within this audience?
Well, it's the presumption that underlies that question, which I'm sometimes faced with in other ways, is that if you thought there was going to be a celestial dictator, that would give you something to hope for. I fail to see why that's the case. As I've given you my reasons, I think that would be a very bleak situation indeed. Just as, well, let me back up just a tiny second. I wouldn't say that atheism was a morally superior position. I wouldn't say it was a morally inferior one, certainly. But there's a tiny edge that it might possess, and it's this. We can't be accused of wishful thinking at all. We will accept conclusions that may be unwelcome to us. We don't say, well, I won't believe this because if I did, it would mean I'd have to be a pessimist. I mean, that would be absurd. It would be counter-intellectual. I'm not particularly delighted at the thought of my own biological annihilation, of my returning to atoms. It doesn't delight me. My conclusion is it's the overwhelmingly probable thing, that the likelihood that I'll be reassembled and we'll have this discussion again in some theme park is vanishingly small. And if you want to reintroduce the question of hope, no, I don't like the idea that at a certain point I'll be tapped on the shoulder and told, you have to leave the party now, and you can't come back. And not only that, it's going to go on without you. I don't particularly like that thought, but I think it will happen. On the other hand, if you replace it with the thought, the party's going to go on forever, and Daddy will be watching you at it all the time, and you can never leave, if you find hope in that, I wish you joy of it.
I think, just very briefly, I think to accept unwelcome news makes sense if it is true, but doesn't by itself give one moral credit. Because you could be accepting the unwelcome news, not because it's true, but for all kinds of other reasons. You could be a masochist. You might, as Christopher himself insinuated, not want it to be true. Because if it is true, all kinds of consequences might follow. In other words, I have a chance of going to heaven, but I might end up in hell. I would rather believe there is no heaven and hell, so I can live my life exactly as I want. I don't have to follow all these commandments and codes and so on, and I can, in a sense, abolish moral accountability. I can get rid of moral judgment if I don't have a judge. This is wishful thinking of a different sort. It's wishful thinking that we will not be held accountable for our actions. So, there are two kinds of wishful thinking involved. The wishful thinking that says, I wish I'd make it to heaven, and the wishful thinking that says, I hope there isn't any heaven because I'm having too much fun down here.
Okay, which side are we on? Who's next? Your question.
All right, my question is for both. The atheist looks at the universe and says, look.
Step up to the mic.
The atheist looks at the universe and says, look, that proves there is no God. The Christian looks at the universe and says, look, that proves there is a God. Isn't the true question, do you believe?
Well, that certainly isn't the atheist's position. The atheist says that the universe is explicable without any supernatural assumptions. The universe gives you no reason to think, nor does anything else in nature give you any reason to think there's a supernatural dimension. It doesn't prove the non-existence of God because that can't be proven.
The Christian position...
But the proof that there is something that's been attempted by some extremely intelligent people, not exempting my friend and comrade, but there's no satisfactory proof has ever been or ever will be found. It's evidence proof in any case. It's a matter of faith.
In a Newtonian universe where space and time extend indefinitely, infinitely, it's a little difficult to see how the universe could have had a beginning or how a God could have created it. However, with the important discovery in the last century that the universe has a beginning, we have the following argument. It's not a proof, it's an argument, and it appeals to human experience. In our human experience, everything that has a beginning has a cause. That's proposition number one. Proposition number two, a statement of fact. The universe has a beginning. Conclusion number three, the universe has a cause. 4, the cause could be natural or supernatural. 5, we rule out the natural cause since the universe includes all of nature, and we presume that nature doesn't cause itself or bring itself into existence. Therefore, there is a supernatural cause. That cause we call God.
You should believe that, you believe anything. Sorry, what are you signaling?
5 minutes.
Oh, fine.
Okay.
In your opinion, is a basis for any importance, any speciality, whether we call it rights or dignity? What makes any member of this species, you or I or anyone, special in a species that you say is a physical and biological accident and will inevitably be destroyed by the stars?
This is a very familiar false antithesis, and it's based on an unexamined presumption, which is that it's best put, I think, by Dostoevsky in The Brothers Karamazov. But without God, anything goes, right? You're awarded permission to do as you like. Nothing really matters. The lives and rights of others are unimportant without God. But wouldn't it be, I won't say more true, but at least as true to say that with God, all atrocities and indifferences are also thinkable, sometimes mandated. Some religions order you to enslave people. The Old Testament repeatedly orders you to do it. They order you to mutilate the genitals of children. They order you to be terrified of the menstrual blood of women. They order you to inflict rape and exile and dispossession and torture on other people. You don't have to look far if you open your newspaper and go around the world, just do a quick tour d'horizon and see the ways in which the parties of God enjoin people to behave. In other words, I absolutely reject the grammar of your question, and I also very much resent, as I've told you before, gave you fair warning on this point, very much resent the smug religious assumption that anyone who can mention God has a moral edge on me. Not so. Go back and try again.
Christopher...
No follow-up question.
Very briefly, I don't think he meant it in an accusatory way. I think he was asking it perhaps with an example. We're always told, care about the earth. Look after the planet. Because future generations are going to inhabit it. Now, in some sense, and in